topic for this unit is sleep and dreams. These are topics that have fascinated people for thousands and thousands of years, and psychologists have recently made headway into understanding what sleep is and why we sleep, and are starting to understand dreams to some extent as well. Because of the strong interest that people have in dreams, we're going to start off with dreams first, and then cover aspects of sleep. So think for a moment about the most memorable nighttime dream that you've had. What would life be like if we did not dream while we sleep? Some people say, well, I don't remember my dreams, and so it wouldn't matter much to me. Other people say, well, I think my life would be more boring without these exciting dreams or these interesting dreams to relate to. Still other people say, I wonder if we didn't dream, if we would have emotional problems, or if we would have difficulty with thinking during the daytime. These last people may be closer to the truth than anyone else, based on psychological research that's coming to light. Psychological research on dreams has come from procedures in which we have someone come to a sleep laboratory, and while they sleep we monitor their brain waves, and when we can tell that they're dreaming, we awaken them, ask them to tell us about their dreams, or ask them to write down their dreams. What we find is that most dreams are about ordinary events, not about exotic sorts of topics, but typically ordinary events. We may think of dreams as being highly sexual in nature. However, in reality, only about 1 in 10 dreams for men has sexual content, and about 1 in 30 dreams for women has sexual content. Another finding is that dreams often relate to the previous day's experience. So perhaps you've had the experience where you've been involved doing something extensively during a day. For example, maybe you're taking a cross-country trip and you've driven most of the day. You go to sleep and you dream, and what do you dream about? You're likely to dream about driving. The same thing with other kinds of events. If you spend a lot of time on a puzzle or in a game or something like that, you're likely to spend time dreaming about that as well. A third finding on dream research indicates that dreams typically aren't really pleasant. Oftentimes our dreams involve anxiety or misfortune. Typically themes may involve things like failure, or themes like being attacked by someone or something, maybe being pursued, or themes of being rejected. But typically dream research shows we're going to have dreams that involve anxiety or misfortune. It's important to distinguish then the idea of our nighttime dreams from the idea of dreams that we might have as goals. Maybe you dream of becoming a basketball star. That's a very different kind of thing than our nighttime dreams, which typically are not that pleasant. In this slide you have a picture of a man sleeping and angels ascending to heaven above the man. This little slide is symbolic, this picture is symbolic of, from the Old Testament, of Jacob and the dream that he had in which angels were ascending and descending a ladder. Jacob wakes up after this dream and says, oh my goodness, God was here. God has spoken to me in this dream. This is an important point to think about. Dreams throughout history have been seen as having symbolic meaning, a meaning which can be discovered. In Jacob's case, he said that God was speaking to him in this dream, and that was the meaning. Throughout history we see the Greeks and the Romans having their own gods devoted to dreams. We have many other examples of dreams being interpreted as prophecies. As we moved into the realm of psychology, we find that one of the early psychologists, that is, his name was Sigmund Freud, had something to say about dreams as well. He too took the symbolic view of dreams. Next slide. Does psychology address the symbolic view of dreams? Indeed it does. In the late 1800s to early 1900s, there was an author and psychologist named Sigmund Freud who developed a theory called psychoanalysis. Psychoanalysis is both a theory of personality, that is, why we are the way that we are, and it's also a means of treatment for mental health problems. According to Freud and psychoanalysis, dreams represent unacceptable desires. Freud said that there are some desires, lusts, and wants that we have that are too intense or too unacceptable for us to manage in our conscious mind, and so they get pushed down into the unconscious. So for example, let's say that you want something that society would deem to be completely unacceptable, and in fact you wouldn't be comfortable with having this desire yourself. According to Freud, this desire would get pushed down into the unconscious, which is sort of like a locked basement. So you've got some nasty, unpleasant things in the locked basement of your mind, which is the unconscious. But every now and then these things pop up, and one of the ways they pop up and can come into your awareness is through dreams. Freud said that whenever we have a dream, there are two levels of the dream. First of all, there is the level of manifest content. Manifest content of a dream is the part of the dream that you remember. But there's also the level of latent content of the dream. Latent content you don't remember, but latent content is the real meaning of the dream. So the manifest content is nothing more than a symbol for the real meaning, the latent content. Let's have an example. Suppose that you dream about a large tree that grows up in your front yard and overshadows your house. This tree is blocking out shade from your house, dropping acorns on your house, the branches are damaging your roof, and so forth. And you get more and more frustrated with this tree, and one day you go out and you chop it down. That's the dream. You wake up and you remember that content. That's the manifest content. But what could that be a symbol of? What could the dream really mean? Well, suppose that lately you've been having a lot of trouble at work. You've got a new boss, and this boss micromanages you, always looking over your shoulder, taking credit for your work, constantly criticizing you, and you become more and more and more angry with your boss, until finally you get to the point where you have a desire to kill your boss. Is it appropriate to have a desire to kill someone else? Most people couldn't live with the idea of themselves as a murderer. So the desire to kill your boss is something that will need to be pushed down into the unconscious. It's an unacceptable desire that needs to go into the unconscious. But perhaps it pops up a little bit in this dream. So the latent content, or the real meaning of the dream, is you want to kill your boss. The manifest content is just a symbol of that unconscious desire. Next slide. Has psychology advanced beyond the theories of Sigmund Freud about the latent and manifest contents of dreams? Indeed it has. As you'll see in the section on sleep, we're now able to tell if people are dreaming and wake them up and find out what's going on while they're dreaming. We're also able to, through the study of brainwaves, find out some more specific information about what dreams might do or what they might mean. So let's look at a couple of modern views of dreams. To begin with, we have the activation synthesis view. The idea with the activation synthesis view is that during the night we have random brain activity occurring, and then our brain somehow has to make sense of that random brain activity and create a story out of it. And the story that our brain creates is what we call a dream. Is there any credibility to this view? Well, indeed there is. It's true that while we are asleep, there is activation going on within the brain, particularly some of the areas that have to do with visual images and areas that have to do with emotions. So this random brain activity occurring during the night may encompass feelings and also images. Now our brain somehow, according to this view, creates a story or synthesizes this random brain activity to make some sense of it. Think, for example, then, if you had activation in the limbic system. Remember, the limbic system, specifically the amygdala, has to do with anxiety and emotions. So let's say that you have some random brain activity happening during your sleep in your amygdala, and so you have a sensation of anxiety. Let's say that at the same time you also, up in your cortex, have some random brain activity where there are memories of lightning. what lightning is, what lightning looks like, what it does. Perhaps you have both of these things happening at the same time, emotional fear and lightning memories. So the brain creates a story, perhaps a story of a thunderstorm, to try to make sense of it. Now there are drawbacks with the activation synthesis view. One of the big questions is, how does our brain, as it's asleep, actually make up a story that seems to make sense? Another objection is that we seem to dream about some very strange, unusual things, but most of the time we dream about everyday things. Why is it, if the brain activity is random, do we sometimes dream about things that are bizarre and sometimes dream about commonplace things? So the activation synthesis view is still a theory with some proof, but not absolute proof for it. Another view of dreams is that dreams involve memory storage, and they really occur for the purpose of making new memories. One of the things that's been found is that when we learn material during the day, if we are allowed to dream during the night, we remember that material better. But if a person is taught some new material during the day, but during the night their dreams are interrupted, where they're not allowed to have their normal dream sleep, what we find is that they're not able to remember that material as well. Another piece of information that suggests the memory storage view is accurate is that rats that are learning a maze, putting a rat in a maze and letting it run through its way through the maze, a rat that is learning a maze has certain areas of its brain that are active, and that can be measured, what areas of the brain are active. And then it's been found that later on during the sleep, the rat's brain areas that were active during the maze are once again active. So memory storage view says that dreams may actually allow us to make memories. Now what do you think? Which makes most sense to you? The activation synthesis view, the memory storage view, or the symbolic view of dreams? Perhaps it's a little of each. End of slide.